Okay, let's try this and see how we're going here. We've got this flywheel. I want to take it off the motor. Okay, you can see the gap in there. All right, I want to measure that gap. Old school, as a mechanic, I could just use a feeler gauge. Okay, use these for valve adjustments and whatever. Okay, you just want to find the size of the gap. Okay, so in this case, I can find, and I think it's probably larger than just one feeler gauge. Two of them put together actually is what I've got here, and the two of them are, let's see what we've got here, 6 and 6, about 1.2 millimeters. Okay, these two gauges together. All right, so I want to put it back on, so I'll keep those two together. If you don't have that, then use something like a piece of paper, cardboard, corrugated board. Okay, that's about 1.2 millimeters, and oh, hey, look, that's about how thick it is, and it goes right down there. It fits snugly. And whenever you're doing a test or a check, it should fit snugly, but still allow it to pass through. That's a general rule for using feeler gauges in the automotive world, etc. Okay, so now I've got puller installer and my press shaft, and this is the same puller installer but now modified to the new design, sent back to me by TSG Multimedia. Yeah, and all I'm going to do is get this press shaft in here, set this up on here, and I can do it this way, or I can use the washer. Okay, the slotted washer. Okay, so that's about 1.2 millimeters. Okay, and I can just slide this whole mechanism right here up onto my newly modified, okay, press puller installer. And I want to get the shaft to go down inside, and I want it to center up in the middle of the flywheel, and I want it pressing on the motor shaft at the same time the framework is pulling up on the flywheel. And once centered up, I can just turn it. That's all I'm doing, is turning it by hand. Okay, and pressing against the motor shaft, and it is coming off. And this is an overheated motor. You can see the discoloration in it. Oops, there it goes. So now we got it off. Okay, and then putting it back on, I'm just going to sand the shaft a little bit, sand inside the flywheel a little bit. I'm going to put some, in this case, one of these is so loose, I don't have any choice. Okay, I'm going to have to use something pretty stiff. So I've got some old JB Weld here. I'm going to mix some of that up. Instructions are on the package when you buy it. I'm going to put it on the shaft, and I'm going to put it up inside this flywheel, and then on a new motor. Okay, and the replacement motor is sitting right here, and I'm just going to put it together. Now one side is going on. See how loose this is? Look at that. It doesn't take hardly any pressure. And one of the contentions is you don't want to put too much pressure on the motor, because you're putting pressure on the what they're calling is thrust bearings, but actually they're thrust washers. A bearing carries load all the time. The thrust washer only gets load when the motor shifts back and forth, and when you go from forward to reverse, these motors kick back and forth, and they kick up against those washers, and that's why you lubricate it up inside there where the thrust washer is, and lubricate it up inside here, inside the motor frame right here, up in there, so that once in a while, about every, whatever manufacturer recommends, I think it's about every 30 or 40 hours or use or whatever, and that keeps it lubricated. But it only gets thrust once in a while, and it's a flat surface on inside motor frame. The thrust washer is flat, and then of course the armature, or the commutator, or the other side over here, is just a flat surface. Okay, coming up against a flat surface, coming up against the flat surface. It just allows it to spin or rotate without wearing out the motor frame inside, okay, or the nose on the commutator, or the nose on the back of the motor here where the windings are. So that's what it's for. Now, JB Weld has metal in it. If you ever used it and you touch it with a magnet, the magnet will stick to it, okay, wherever you've used it. You know, plastic, you can use it on plastic. And now that it's still magnetized because the material itself has particles of metal in it. So that metal in the JB Weld is going to make up for any difference in the proper circumference of either the shaft, the motor shaft, or this flywheel, okay? So that flywheel goes on easy. Now the other flywheel I've got here, I'm going to have to take this off, because this is going in my SDP-40, which I'm reconditioning, and I'm putting another motor in because that motor that was in it was overheated due to bad contacts. And there was actually fire and sparks coming out of the commutator side where the motor brushes are. I mean, that's how bad it was. Okay, this one's going on kind of easily. Look at that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to use JB Weld on both sides. This is a little tougher on this side. This is really loose on this side. So, you know, it's just, you know, I get my clearances correct, which I saved my clearance here. So I want to make sure the clearance is correct. Okay, here. And then when I get the other side done, I want to make sure the clearance is correct on this side. Okay. And basically that's what you're going to do. Now in order to do that, what I did was I ordered these A-line and got them, thank God. And A-line instructions say themselves that you need to glue. Okay, I'm going to use JB Weld, but they say glue. Okay, so here's the thing. I've used, just for the sake of it, I used JB Weld on this AMD 103 motor. Okay, everybody's seen this before. This thing is on there real tight, okay? And I can still get it off if I use the press. I can still pull these off, but I can't pull them off like this, okay? So, I mean, they're really on there. That's just the way it is. And it's got a lot of gap in it because that's the kind of motor it is. And I think I've seen this before in one that I have with that big gap in there. So, I'm pretty sure that's what this motor was and is still set up for if I need it. So, anyway, I'm doing this. I didn't buy all these motors to use myself because I just don't need all of them. What I did was I bought them to figure out whether or not my tool, okay, that I'm advertising is correct under all occasions for the blue box motors. That's what I want. I want truth in advertising with my tool. And that's what this is about, okay? Helping you out and making sure that I'm correct in my advertising. You know, I'm not selling something that isn't what it is. You're getting what you're paying for. And I am getting my models done too, okay? So, fortunately, I'm not charging 50 bucks a piece for them or whatever, okay? I'm charging what it's costing me to make them. That's what I'm charging. So, you know, they're made in America. They take more than 7 hours to make. I don't know about anybody else, but 7 hours labor at today's rates, it would be astronomical. So, you know, even if it was made overseas somewhere, I think probably by the time they ship it here and all the costs associated, you're looking at a good 30 to 50 bucks a piece, something like that. It's a new idea. It does take less effort and less money than if you've got to go outfit your workshop and put a vise in there and, you know, and do all that stuff. And just remember, when you're measuring these things, you don't have to have a feeler gauge. You can use anything. Just make sure that it fits in between there, and you remember what the gap is before you take it apart. Okay? Thanks for watching. Enjoy the hobby, because that's what it's really all about. And if we can save a little money in the process, that's really cool too. Thank you.